You've heard it over and over. Being a teacher comes with challenges. And one of those challenges, your students. Students can bring discipline challenges, they can bring trauma challenges, and they can bring challenges within the classroom environment. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Stacy Vaught, and today we are going to talk about how do we support the challenging student in our classroom. Whether you're a new teacher preparing to be in your own classroom, or you're already a teacher in the classroom, you have likely worked with students that have brought challenges to your classroom. I want to talk about one big reminder when it comes to working with challenging students, and that is building relationships with students. Relationships are at the core of teaching. In any situation that you face as a teacher, what you are going to recognize is that relationships and building relationships with these students is going to be the focus of what you do. So, how do we build relationships with students? I have a couple suggestions from my own experience in the classroom to better help you build those relationships and create a positive classroom culture for your students. So let's dive in. First and foremost, when you are working to build relationships with students, the one focus area is make that student matter. And how do you make the student matter? You take the time and you take the initiative to get to know that student. Never assume that you already know that kind of student, because you probably don't. There could be situations happening at the home. There could be situations happening as part of development. So get to know your student. Make it a priority when that challenging student walks into the classroom to recognize them and ask them something about themselves. What is their favorite food? Where did they get their new shoes? What did they have for dinner last night? Have a conversation with that student to help them build that trust and find that comfortability within that classroom. If I think back to my experience in the classroom, I can remember my most challenging student, and he had a lot of things going on just personally with him. And I took that time to build that relationship with him. I called him up to my desk area where I was sitting every day to just talk to him, take 5 minutes to ask him something about himself. And on those toughest days, I would put in that much more to build that relationship with him. Another big factor that you are going to want to put in place is observation. And by this, I mean from that minute your students start a new year, you are always observing their behaviors. What works for them? What doesn't work for them? What times of the day are they most involved in learning? When do you see them unmotivated or unfocused? And start a record or a log of all of that information. That is going to help you, and that is going to help any stakeholder that you might need to reach out to help you with those most challenging students. So when you are working with your challenging students and you notice that after lunch they come in, they're really tired, they don't want to be a part of the classroom, you have all of your students maybe on the carpet ready to read a story, and they decide they don't want anything to do with the carpet, that is when you really think about what matters most and how do you make that student build that trust with you. So maybe in that moment, you do give that challenging student the option to read a book somewhere else by themselves and give them that moment to find that comfortability and trust in you, because pushing them at that moment to go to the carpet is not always going to be your best bet. Take the time to identify with that student what they need in that moment so that you can continue to build that trust with them. So if that student is not ready to join the carpet after lunch because they are really tired at that moment, they need a break from the rest of the class, give them some time. Maybe set a timer, allow them to have 5 minutes to themselves to regroup, and then join the carpet. Remember, in those moments, building that relationship is your priority. Making them feel like they matter and what they need matters is going to be important. And then taking what you have observed about that student into account will help you determine how to best approach the student in that situation. The next thing that I really want you to think about is visuals. So think about how you can incorporate visuals into your everyday. If you have students that are disrupting the class, they cannot seem to stay seated, they often talk without raising their hand, they like to get up and move around the class, the more verbal cues you're giving them, which means the more you're redirecting them, nope, go sit back down, nope, you got to raise your hand, is giving them some of the attention they might need or want at that moment. Switching that to nonverbal cues and visuals can be really helpful for those challenging students and the overall culture of the class. Get a string, make yourself this necklace that has visual cues for them. Sit down, raise your hand, we're not talking right now, go to your seat. And instead of verbally redirecting them, use those visual cues to help redirect them without that additional verbal language. That can be a really valuable strategy for the challenging student and the class as a whole. Have those visual cues around the classroom. Find the opportunity when that challenging student is disrupting the class to redirect them without having to pause what you're doing in the classroom and disrupting the other students, because that just continues that cycle. When you are faced with your challenging students, remember, building that relationship is at the center of everything that you're going to do. Help that student find trust in you. I'm going to go back to my one challenging student that I talked about. We start our school year in August. He came in and he did not trust me. He did not want to be a part of the classroom environment. I spent every day making him matter and building that relationship. And by December, he was able to independently be a part of the classroom environment without disruption, without meltdowns, without erupting. And that, to me, was the most successful moment that I had in my teaching. Our challenging students, they are tough and they are exhausting sometimes, but they are the reason we are in the classroom. They are the reason we do what we do every day. So remember this, the most challenging student is often your biggest reward as a teacher. Build that relationship, make them matter, observe what they need in any given moment, and then finally have visuals to help support those challenging behaviors.